They told you Paul Walker died in a fiery crash. You saw the pictures, you heard the news, the world mourned. But what if that was all a lie? What if the day Paul Walker was declared dead was actually the first day of his new life? Sounds crazy. That's exactly why you need to watch this till the very end. Because the truth is far stranger than what we were told. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon so you never miss our mind-blowing investigations. And here's a question for you. Do you believe Hollywood always tells us the full truth about its stars? I don't think so. In fact, Hollywood's a web of lies, where stars vanish, scandals get buried, and the elite protect their own at any cost. Paul Walker, the face of speed, the heart of Fast and Furious. November 30th, 2013, California. The official story? Paul was riding with his friend Roger Rodas in a red Porsche Carrera GT. The car spun out of control, slammed into a tree, and exploded. Authorities claimed he died instantly. The news spread like wildfire. Fans around the globe broke down in tears. But here's the problem. From the very first hour, nothing about this case felt normal. Who was driving? Why did a car known to be extremely safe burst into flames so violently? Why were key CCTV footages missing? And why were eyewitness reports so contradictory? Some claim they saw Paul trying to get out. Others swore there were no screams, no struggle, just silence. And then there were the whispers from locals who said the car looked tampered with, like the brakes were sabotaged or the tires slashed, details the cops conveniently ignored. We need to uncover whether Paul's death was a tragic accident or something far bigger. But to understand this, we first need to look at who Paul Walker really was off-screen, and what he might have known that powerful people didn't want revealed. We can't understand what happened that day unless we first look at who Paul Walker really was, the man behind the smile, and what secrets surrounded him in his final years. Paul Walker lived a life that looked perfect from the outside. Fame, fortune, and global recognition. But behind the cameras, there were controversies the media often whispered about. Scandals that painted him as a man living on the edge, flirting with danger in ways that could make enemies in high places. He was criticized for his relationships with much younger women, including Jasmine Pilcher Gosnell, who was just 16 when they started dating while Paul was in his 30s. The tabloids called him reckless in love, but Paul defended his choices, saying he lived life by his own rules. Yet dig deeper, and you find rumors of even darker entanglements. Alleged affairs with underage models on film sets, hushed-up NDAs to silence accusers, and whispers of Paul being part of Hollywood's shadowy casting couch culture, where power imbalances led to exploitation. Insiders claimed he bragged about his conquests at private parties, fueling jealousy among jealous rivals who saw him as a threat to their own predatory games. And there's more. Insiders claim Paul was uncomfortable with how Hollywood worked. He reportedly disliked the industry's growing darkness, the exploitation, and the machine that turned real people into marketable brands. But it went further. Paul allegedly clashed with studio execs over script changes in Fast and Furious that glorified illegal street racing and arms dealing, scenes he pushed back against because they mirrored real underworld ties he'd heard about from his racing buddies. Some say he even confided in friends about witnessing A-list stars at elite parties, indulging in drugs and worse. Rituals that screamed secret society involvement, like Illuminati-style initiations, where loyalty was bought with silence or paid in blood. Paul's controversial side didn't stop at romance or Hollywood hypocrisy. He had a reputation for wild, adrenaline-fueled antics off-screen, illegal street races in LA that nearly got him arrested multiple times, and rumors of heavy partying with cocaine and ecstasy that left him paranoid in his later years. One leaked story from a former co-star described Paul ranting about the elite pulling strings behind major films, hinting at money laundering through blockbusters. Was this the real Paul? A thrill seeker whose scandals made him a liability, or a man who knew too much and started talking? Paul wasn't just an actor. He was a philanthropist, a humanitarian, a man who had been quietly helping victims of natural disasters across the globe. Through his charity Reach Out Worldwide, he was on the ground in places like Haiti and Chile, personally delivering aid. In his last days, reports suggest he was working on exposing certain international aid scams, millions of dollars in misused funds that were meant for disaster victims. Could this have made him a target? Absolutely. Sources close to Roe claim Paul had gathered evidence of embezzlement by big NGOs tied to U.S. government contractors, funds siphoned off to black ops or elite slush funds. He was reportedly planning a tell-all documentary, naming names, politicians, celebrities, even Fast and Furious producers who funneled charity money into shady investments. If true, Paul wasn't just helping the needy, he was poking the bear, threatening to unravel a global web of corruption that reached from Hollywood boardrooms to Washington corridors. Let's go back to that day. The car in question, a Porsche Carrera GT, is notoriously difficult to drive, but Roger Rodas was a professional racer. Experts who saw the wreck argued the fire burned too hot and too fast for a normal crash. Almost like an accelerant was used, thermite-grade stuff that melts steel and leaves no traces. Even more bizarre, the autopsy report claimed Paul died of both trauma and burns. But multiple independent analysts have said the timeline of the fire doesn't match up. How could he suffer severe burns if the impact killed him instantly? And what about the toxicology? Rumors persist that the report was altered to hide drugs in his system, not from partying, but from something sinister, like being drugged before the drive. And here's where things get really strange. Footage from nearby security cameras that should have shown the crash was never made public. If this was just a tragic accident, why hide the footage? Why so much secrecy? Theories abound. Some say the video captured a second vehicle ramming them off the road, a black SUV with tinted windows, driven by hitmen tied to the aid scammers Paul was exposing. Others point to Rodas's own shady connections. As a racer, he rubbed shoulders with underground figures who might have owed money or grudges. And if it wasn't an accident, then where is Paul Walker? Post-death sightings fuel the fire. Blurry photos from Brazil in 2015, a man matching his description in a remote Chilean village in 2018. Even AI-enhanced images from fan forums showing a Paul look-alike at anti-corruption rallies. Coincidence? Or proof he faked it all, slipping into witness protection with a new identity, guarded by feds who cut a deal to keep him quiet? Before we answer that, we need to look at what happened immediately after his death within days. Fast and Furious 7 resumed production, using CGI and Paul's brothers as stand-ins. But conspiracy theorists argue this was part of the plan. Why the rush? To cover up loose ends, or because Paul himself approved the doubles from his safe house? Theories pile up. Illuminati sacrifice to balance the franchise's success, or a hit ordered by jealous lovers' powerful families? The truth remains hidden, but one thing is clear. There are too many unanswered questions for this to be just another Hollywood tragedy. Paul's controversies weren't flaws. They were cracks in the facade, revealing a man who danced too close to the fire. Literally. And now I want to hear from you. Do you believe Paul Walker really died that day? Or is he still out there, living in secret, maybe plotting his comeback to drop the ultimate bombshell? Tell me in the comments. Before you go, hit subscribe and press the bell icon so you never miss the next deep dive into the world's most mysterious events. Because next time we might uncover something even bigger.